Welcome to Sports Talk with Phillip Jordan. Phillip Jordan and his guests break down the biggest stories in sports. Here is your host, Phillip Jordan.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Sports Talk with Phillip Jordan. I am your host, Phillip Jordan. The studio host and producer of Nothing Was Football on 96.9, The Legend, and also writer for the Auburn Wire, covering all things Auburn athletics over at USA Today. Welcome in to this week's episode of Sports Talk with Phillip Jordan. Obviously, you've seen the trailer. You've listened to the trailer. And now we're going to jump into the show. We're not going to do all that intro and the show stuff like I've done in the past and go too long with it. And we're going to just go ahead and jump into things. And we have a lot to get to here this week. I'm going to have a great guest later on in the show, Spencer McLaughlin. He covers college football, Oregon, and everything in between. Locked on college football, Locked on Oregon. Also is the voice of Southern Utah athletics. He will be joining me in a little bit. We will talk a lot about the firing of James Franklin at Penn State. We will talk about the Indiana-Oregon game too. That was an interesting game. It did not go the way I thought it would. I thought Oregon would take care of business against Indiana. I'll go into it. I'll say it. Didn't have a lot of respect for Indiana going in, but we'll talk to him about that and just kind of get thoughts who's the best team in the SEC. Kind of had planned on doing more SEC stuff with him and Auburn and all the other stuff, but we kind of ran out of time. We went to 20 minutes, so we didn't get to that. So, but we got plenty of other cool stuff to talk about, which is me and you here on the show today. Let you guys know you can find me on social media at P Jordan Sports. You can find the show. It's on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We're going to get it up on all the other podcast platforms. And, of course, you can check out on YouTube at the Phillip Jordan Sports YouTube channel. You can also check out the Wiregrass High School Football Report over there and the Jet Kennedy Coaches Show over there as well. So what we're going to do here, we are in football season, so we are going to do SEC best win, worst loss. That's something we'll do here. And I'll just got to run through the rest of what happened during the week. Then we'll jump into that interview with Spencer. And then I got some other stuff we're going to do as we get out here on this show today on this Wednesday. So let's start off. Best win. Who had the best win in the SEC this past weekend? I am going to say Texas had the best win. I'm a fan. I know what you're talking about. Obviously, the Auburn rider is sliding us. No one's sliding you, Alabama. Just calm down. Go sit down. Go sit down, Jim Bob. It'll be okay. Texas over Oklahoma. Texas needed this win. This was a very important win for them. And I picked Texas going into this one. I thought Texas would win. Everybody's doubting them. I like the Texas defense. I thought they did well running the ball in the game. Arch played well. 21-27, 166. He threw the touchdown to DeAndre Moore to go up 10-6. He did not really make the mistakes that cost Texas. And I think Sark did good too. Against Florida, they were constantly trying to go deep. Another part of Texas that's hurting them, which it's all about Arch. Everyone talks about Arch's struggles. But the offensive line has not played great. And when you have a new quarterback, young quarterback, he's dealing with offensive line issues, and now you have this. Other stuff where you're trying to throw the ball deep, you just can't do it. If you can't hold the protection, you just can't throw the ball deep all the time like you want to, especially against certain defenses in the SEC. So I think Arch did a good job. I think Sark did a good job also giving him opportunities. The defense played really well. And John Mateer coming back after 17 days after that hand surgery he had, 3 interceptions, the big one before halftime. So Oklahoma, you're up 6-3. You had an opportunity to get some more points, go up 9-3, get maybe some momentum for yourself. Like, I know it's a field goal. You're still only up by 6. Texas could have still came and scored and go at 10-9. But with that said, you really killed any momentum you had with the interception. And just when he got pressure on Saturday, he kind of fell apart. And 3 interceptions, and all those interceptions came off pressure. But that last one really, really, really hurt them. So I like where Texas is at right now with this win. They needed it. I'm not saying Texas is going to now be that team we thought it was going to be at the beginning of the year at number 1, but I also saw some positive signs. I think we can kind of hang up Arch going pro after the season. I mean, I don't know. I think we're going to see him in college next year. So anyways, Texas upcoming schedule. They play Kentucky this week. They have Mississippi State. So you should win your next 2 games, in my opinion. Now, Mississippi State's better. Give that, and you're going on the road. Vanderbilt, that's going to be tough. You bring them to Texas, and then you're off. You're at Georgia. That's going to be a massive game if you only have the 2 losses going into that. than Arkansas and A&M to close the year. And A&M is really good this year, as everybody has seen. Worst loss. The worst loss is Auburn losing to Georgia at home 20-10. Let's get our popcorn ready. Let's do that with my thoughts on this game. So Auburn come out playing really well. And obviously you're at Jordan-Hare Stadium. The crowd is into it. Everybody's excited. I mean, Jordan-Hare just turns this Auburn football team. Well, they're mediocre. They turn them into a really good football team. They come out, the quick passing games there. Auburn's running the ball with Jeremiah Cobb. Jackson Arnold's playing well. He's hitting the quick passes. Really, they're going up tempo, moving the ball well. They have the 10-0 lead. And then before halftime, you had the opportunity to go at 17-0. And then you have the fumble. And then Georgia gets the ball. So here's first my take on the fumble. That was a touchdown, 100%. Referees, once again, pull one over on Auburn against Oklahoma. Now, let me say this. Before I go any further. I do not believe the referees in the SEC have it out for Auburn. I just think Auburn has had some bad luck with some very bad officiating. And I put it on social media, and I'll say it here. The SEC has the worst officiating at any level of football. I mean, I've seen high school football that's much better than this. It's bad. I mean, and it's not just this crew. There's several crews in the SEC. There's just bad officiating. And the SEC they have a problem. They do. And I just don't understand. Okay, so this thing goes back to Birmingham, and we're looking at this replay. You can tell from the pylon cam that Jackson Arnold scored. You can tell he scored. I would like to know what that conversation was like, but we don't get to see that because the SEC doesn't want to put a camera and all the other stuff. Now the ACC is doing it, and I love that the ACC does this, where you can see what is actually going on with the replay situation. I think the SEC needs to do that. There needs to be some accountability held here with this, and it's not just Auburn. It's just, other calls we see that you wonder, okay, you replayed it. The point of replay is getting it right. They did not get it right here. And you say, well, Phillip, you're the guy that goes Auburn. You just sound like somebody that's upset. Listen. This is a situation where a lot of people out there, national people, were saying that was a touchdown. John Cohen referee just got the riot act from John Cohen. Now, did that hurt Auburn in the game? Yes, it did. Because then Georgia goes down and kicks the field goal. Georgia gets momentum. That was a momentum swinging play. That entire play flipped that game. So if you call that touchdown, like you should have, Auburn's up 17-0 going into halftime, all the momentum in the world. But now it's 10-3. And Auburn let that play impact them in the second half, because this is where we're going to turn it around. Georgia earned a victory in the second half. Now, I will say this. The referees were bad again. There were flags all over the place. But every other play, it was a flag. I mean, it took this game about 4 or 5 hours to be played. A college football game doesn't go to overtime. Should not last that long. Just saying. Should not last that long. But Auburn offensively just went back to what they were doing against Oklahoma and A&M in this game. The offense was not the same. The team was not the same. You could tell, particularly offensively, this impacted them. And I don't think it was just the players. I think it was Hugh Freeze and the coaching staff as well. Where did this game impact them in ways that it shouldn't have? But that comes down to Hugh Freeze and his coaching staff. Got to get those players ready. You got to call them together just to say, just move on. But I don't think Auburn ever did, and that hurt them. Now, Kirby Smart, let's talk to you for a second. Come get closer to the YouTube video, or let me talk closer into the microphone. If we can get this to Athens, tell Kirby something. You were not clapping. You were calling a timeout, and you are a liar and cheater, and I will stand by that. So, and he's gonna make up an excuse. No, I was clapping. Look, no. And then the fact that bothers me about that the most, the fact is, referees charge him a timeout, and he goes over there and he talks them into it. Do you think Hugh Freeze could have done that? Do you think Sark maybe could have done that? DeBoer probably couldn't have. He's not been in the league long enough. Several coaches. Shane Beamer couldn't have done that. Lane Kiffin couldn't have done that. There's so many coaches that could not have gotten away with that. He just talked them into it. Say, hey, I was clapping. I wasn't calling timeout. Yes, you were. We can read your lips. We can see the image. Now, for us and for you too, but when you do this, you're calling timeout. I'm sorry. You call timeout, Kirby. You call timeout. But you just running off stuff. Anyway, I'm going to get off of that. So, I will say this now moving forward for Auburn. 3-3. Must win against Missouri. You got to wonder how much longer it will be with Hugh Freeze. You really do. And when he got hired, I was very optimistic about it. But in general, I am optimistic about these things anyways. I thought, okay, he will come in. The offense will be fixed. Bring good defense. It'll take them a year or two to get some players. They have talent there. The offense still struggling. And I think the problem is the days of your head coach being your offensive play caller, at least in college, I think is kind of over just because the head coach has just got so much going on. Doing NIL, transfer, constantly have to recruit your roster. And I know there's people in place to help that, but still that falls on the head coach. There's just so much the head coach has to do. And you know good and well he's not in all those offensive meetings during the week. You need to have an offensive coordinator do this. Look, Auburn had the same problem with Gus Malzahn. They did. So that's going to be something I think he freezes if he lasts this year, which I don't know if he will. So the offense has been bad. Defense has been great. Defense did what they had to. I mean, I know they gave that touchdown at the end to make it 20-10, but I ain't putting that on them. Offense has got to do something. If the offense just scores like 23, 24 points, 3 touchdowns and a field goal these last 3 weeks, they're 6-0. They're a 6-0 team. They have a championship defense. They do not have a championship offense, and that has to change. Looking at the rest of Week 7, Alabama beating Missouri. DeBoer, gutsy guy now. Gutsy guy with those 4th down attempts. But, hey, he is taking risk, and it's working out for him. And Ty Simpson's just playing at a different level right now. After he pretty much got his butt kicked against Florida State, he has been playing really well. Ole Miss beating Washington State. Lane Kiffin wasn't happy about that one, and I understand that. We'll see if that is kind of got some carryover this week against Georgia. Tennessee and Arkansas. Tennessee was actually up 34-17, and then Arkansas comes right back on them. I'm just concerned about this Tennessee defense. I think that's definitely, without a doubt, holding them back. A&M beat Florida. Florida's now 2-4. A&M played well. A&M can play in a defensive game like they did against Auburn, or they can get high scoring back and forth like they did against Notre Dame. That's what's dangerous about this A&M team. They can kind of beat you in a different style games. Defensive, low scoring, or they can get in a shootout with you either way, and they can still come out and win. We've seen that this year. Florida now is 2-4. I think we're still on Bill Napier watch. And then LSU beat South Carolina. LSU's defense is really good. I think I saw some good things at LSU. At least they tried to run the football against South Carolina, but they still got some issues there with that team. So offensively, defensively is really, really good. We'll see what they do this weekend against Vanderbilt. Florida State losing to Pitt. Wow. What a difference a few weeks makes. This team, first week of season, they beat Alabama like they did. 2 touchdowns. It's like, okay, FSU's back. They are a contender in the ACC, and any week is the team to playoff. They're now 0-3 in the ACC, losing to Virginia. Miami's understandable. Miami's really good. Then losing to Pitt. The offense really isn't the problem. I think the offense is okay, but the Florida State defense is really failing this team. And I don't know. Mike Norvell, because you really look at it, he had 2 really good years, but it's sandwiched in between some bad years. And didn't start great. I know he had to rebuild some things. Look at last year. And if the losses keep piling up this year, I wonder if Florida State will make a change because I don't think he has enough leeway there to say, hey, we can rebuild this thing back up, because it kind of started off slow. You had a couple good years there, and then this, what we're going through now. The last year, how bad it was last year, and then now this 0-3 starting in the ACC. This team just cannot win a conference game. James Franklin fired. I saw that on Saturday. Look, and I'll say this, and I'll open this. Okay, behind the scenes, we've already recorded the Spencer McLaughlin interview on Monday. and I'll say this, and he pushes back a little bit on it, but it's fine. It's fine. We're having a conversation. I have no problem with that. I saw it. I wasn't shocked. I saw the way the fans reacting. I've seen enough firings in college football to kind of see when you see one coming. Maybe you're thinking they do it then, but you had to do it some time. And I'll say this with James Franklin and Penn State. Now, in the way college football is, you kind of got to go ahead and do this now during the season. If you know you're going to make a change at the end of the year, just go ahead and do it because you got to get ahead of it. Just with the landscape of college football now, you have got to get ahead of it when you're going to let a coach go. You just can't wait to the end of the season. Just got so much going on that you got to take care of. Real quickly, I'm not going to get too much into the SEC media days with basketball here this week because, one, it's still ongoing as I'm recording this on Wednesday and getting it out later on Wednesday. So I just don't want to talk about half of it and then the other half next week. We're going to jump more into it next week, so don't worry. Because I know you see the logo. There's a basketball up there, so we're going to do that. But I will say this. The predicted order of finish the media has selected for the SEC. You got Florida number 1, the defending champions. Kentucky, Tennessee, and Alabama. That's your top 4. Auburn is at 5. Auburn, I get it. I mean, Taha is the only one coming back. I mean, you just don't. Auburn's got talent. I mean, they're going to be good, especially later. More we go into the season this year, they're going to be good. And Balling and Boutwell, they'll be playing on Wednesday night. So we're also having that thing to talk about next week. But you got to see how this roster is going to fit together. That's the main thing with Auburn. Missouri at 7, Ole Miss at 8, Texas at 9, Mississippi State at 10, Vanderbilt at 11, Oklahoma at 12, A&M at 13, Georgia at 14, LSU at 15, and then we have South Carolina at 16. Interesting how the SEC is going to play out this year. I want to see if, last year it says the greatest year for a conference. We'll see if I don't think they're going to duplicate that success. We'll see how close they can get to it. SEC, great basketball league. So we'll see how that goes. All right. That's not me rambling on. Went about 18 minutes here in the open. I am now going to play my conversation I had with Spencer McLaughlin. Of course, he is the host of Locked On College Football and Locked On Oregon. As I said, we talked a lot of James Franklin stuff. We talked a lot about the Indiana Oregon game, and I did get his thoughts on who he thinks is the best team in the SEC. So I'm going to play that conversation for you right now. Then after that, we will close the show up with my NFL top 10 and also some picks for their football weekend. Hope you enjoyed the interview. All right, everybody joining me on the show today's featured guest, Spencer McLaughlin. You can check him out, Locked On College Football, Locked On Oregon, also the voice of Southern Utah Athletics. And Spencer, I appreciate you coming on the show. Obviously, nothing going on in college football right now.
No major stories. I'm scrapping for content on my college football show right now, Phillip. Scrapping the bottom of the barrel to figure out what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, so, I think last week I messaged you and asked you on, and I was thinking, we got some big games this week. We'll talk about that. What's going on in the SEC, your thoughts. Of course, I cover Auburn. We'll probably jump into Auburn, but James Franklin fired on Sunday. And I don't think anybody was surprised. It was, just a way this has gone down. I don't
think I agree with that.
I think some people thought it could happen, not Sunday, but at some point maybe this year. I just want to ask you, right decision?
I think so. And I know it's an expensive decision, and I've heard people defend, the idea that he's been so good for so long and he's just having the one bad year. And I would feel that way, or be more inclined to feel that way, if this were year 3, maybe even 4. If you'd put in 4 good years at Penn State and then you had a bad one in year 5 like this, okay. James Franklin has been there over a decade. Mm-hmm. Over a decade. This is year 12. It's not acceptable. And you had the book written for the most part on James Franklin coming into this season. And it was, they're a good team every year. They go to the playoff. They go 10-2. They lose the big games. That he can do all of that. What you were sitting around wondering is he a guy that can take your program to the next level? And on paper this year, he had everything he needed to do it. And for it to be this much of a spectacular failure for Penn State, for this embarrassing of a season, yeah, I said after they lost to Northwestern, gotta go. I mean, that means the team has quit on him. That's what that means. When you lose to UCLA and then you come back home and lose to Northwestern, a team has not lost back-to-back games as a 20-plus point favorite since like the 80s. You know, a 20-plus point favorite, top 10 team hadn't lost to an 0-4 squad since the 80s. He is having a historically bad couple of games, but it's not just those two games. Those were the straws that broke the camel's back, but it was the years and years and years of having on paper as a program what you need to compete with Ohio State and Michigan and Oregon, and failing to do that over and over again. Once you start going in the negative, you know, okay, he could get us back. If they stuck with James Franklin, I think he could have gotten them back to being what they've been. But it's very clear to me after this season, he's not going to be someone that takes them to that upper echelon of college football. So I respect Penn State for going out and gutting up in a year where they paid Jim Knowles $3 million to be their defensive coordinator, highest paid in all of football, for finding the $50-ish million to say, we have to be better than this. So I do think it's the right move. I understand the other argument. I just don't happen to agree with it because he's been there for such a long time.
You know, it kind of reminds me of Mark Richt at Georgia. Like, he was super successful. He was winning 19 games every year, get to a couple SEC games. Wasn't winning them, could not beat Alabama. And honestly, at times, he struggled against Urban Meyer. Then you bring in Kirby Smart, who's now won 2 national championships. Now, he can't beat Alabama either. That's a Georgia problem, not a Mark Richt problem. But it's kind of like the same thing. Like, yeah, Mark Richt could get you to 19 games. And look, if Mark Richt was coaching Georgia in this era of college football, he's a playoff team every year, but never going to win it. And again, you bring in Kirby. So, I mean, I don't know. It just kind of seems kind of a similar thing to me. Now, we don't know if they're going to get their Kirby next. That's the next part of it, is getting the guy that can take you to that next level. But still, kind of, I don't know, just threw out there, just kind of seems similar.
No, I think that's a great comparison. And a couple other coaching handoffs that popped into my head. Florida going from Dan Mullen to Billy Napier. That's 100% possible if you make the wrong hire, or if it doesn't go as planned and one that looks good on paper and doesn't pan out. You could have that situation, then you're really stuck. Or you could do a Texas A&M that paid Jimbo Fisher an outrageous amount of money, $75 million, 50% more, roughly, than what James Franklin is going to get. Texas A&M paid that much to Jimbo Fisher to make him go away. That's a gamble. And make no mistake about it, this is a risky move from Penn State because of the stability Franklin has provided your program with recruiting and on-field results for the most part, obviously, this season notwithstanding, for a very long time. But Texas A&M was also a gamble. They're the big joke about A&M, they can only go 8-4. They're 8-4, Texas A&M. How are they looking right now? How are they looking right now? That was a risk, because guess what? If you go and fire Jimbo Fisher, even if you're paying his contract over a really long period of time, it's still a lot of money. It's still operationally cutting into your budget here and there. And they went out and hired Mike Elko. They hired the right guy, and they're better because of it. So it can definitely go in both directions. It's just the fear of the unknown for a new coach weighted against the assurance that you're not going to get where you want to go, but you'll still be good, fun, exciting, entertaining. But James Franklin lost his locker room. He was losing the fan base. He's getting booed in his own stadium. I don't know how programs come back from that. Players hear that. They're right there in the stadium. James Franklin hears it. He's going to keep getting asked questions about it. It just, I think, had so much, because the season was going so poorly. They were already in for a reset year, at least a little bit next season with the way their roster shakes out. I think this is a move that Penn State needed to make, but there's no doubt about it. There is an element of risk. There's no guarantee, even if you make the right hire on paper. Let's say they go get Matt Rule from Nebraska. Real possibility. Let's say they go and do that. I think he'll work. He's worked everywhere else he's been in college. Sometimes those guys don't work out. it doesn't always make sense. Billy Napier won everywhere he'd been. Not working out. So it's a gamble, but I think it's one, if you're Penn State, you got to make, because it's just been so long. They've just been the biggest tease of a program in the Big Ten.
Yeah, they have. And it's like every year when they would play Ohio State, you would think, okay, is this when they're going to do it? And most of the time they didn't. Kurt Sidney, which we'll jump into Indiana and Oregon after that. I've seen that name float out. Do you think there's any chance that could be a possibility?
Yeah, I think there has to be a chance, on paper. I'm not coming on here and saying, as a bitter Oregon fan, yeah, Cignetti's going to leave Indiana. No, I wouldn't want that to happen, as a matter of fact, because Penn State is a better job than Indiana. Okay, anybody who's going to argue the other side of that, you can try. You're going to lose that argument if you're going against somebody that has any idea what they're talking about. I don't think there's a recruiting analyst in the country, Phillip, who would tell you that Indiana is a better place to be than Penn State. It simply is not. That's not to say Indiana can't be successful, obviously, or that Curt Cignetti is destined to leave, or if Penn State calls, he's automatically going to answer. If he feels at all like he can accomplish everything he wants to at Indiana one day, and maybe he can, and that's perfectly fine. Penn State is a better job. That's why I've talked about him on my show, why others have brought him up as well. He's a really hot coaching name because he has done one of the most unbelievable coaching jobs in college football recent history. I mean, Indiana is a power in year two. What are you talking about? Imagine 2 years ago, Phillip, saying, hey, Indiana's going to be a top 5 team. In what? Number of players that left their program because they're such a mess? There was nothing about Indiana that was good, relevant, consistent, quality, winning. Nothing. It was one of those schools. It was like Kentucky in the SEC. Football season is just a way for fans to pass the time, fill up 60% of their stadium, and that more than that probably, but not sell out the way that it has since Cignetti got there. They're just passing the time to get to basketball season. Kansas is another example of this, and Lance Leipold has done a very good job with the Jayhawks program. They've flatlined a bit the last couple of years, but still, when you go to a place like that and win, Clark Lee at Vanderbilt, Lance Leipold at Kansas, Cignetti at Indiana, you just deserve all the credit in the world. You really do, because we don't see it very often. These are programs that usually just cycle through head coach. When was the last time Arkansas was relevant? Gosh, Arkansas would love to have their own Curt Cignetti right now. It's hard to find.
It's funny, last time they were relevant was when Bobby Petrino was the head coach.
Yeah, funny how that works. Funny that they almost knocked off Tennessee last weekend.
Yeah, they did. Get into the SEC. And you talking about fan bases that are waiting for basketball season to start. I think the one I cover, Auburn, is turning into one of those fan bases. But we will get to them in just a little bit. The Indiana Oregon game, Indiana winning that game 30-20, and I went into it thinking Oregon was going to win. I mean, I looked at Indiana; they beat Iowa 20-15. I mean, I was like, this is the same Indiana as last year when they played somebody good. They got beat last year. Prove me wrong.
You just overlooking that win against Illinois?
Illinois.
I didn't say Illinois is a great team, but Illinois is a good team, and Indiana made them look like an FCS program.
I guess, too, I was still going into the weekend. I was thinking, okay, the Penn State win was still really good in my head at the time, even though what happened to UCLA. And I just guess I was just looking at Oregon as a much, much different class than what Illinois was. That was kind of like my way of thinking with that. And, I mean, the Indiana defense played really well against Oregon. 6 sacks, 2 interceptions on Dante Moore. No, he was being taught Heisman, and that's still possible. And so much, is still in front of Oregon with this. But what did you see out of the Indiana defense that was giving Oregon so much trouble?
Yeah, their defensive coordinator was the MVP of the game. And that's not to say they don't have talent. They do. D'Angelo Pons, great corner. Aiden Fisher, the linebacker. They got some guys up front that were creating havoc. But more than anything, the scheme that Indiana came into this football game with was just too much for Dante Moore and offensive coordinator Will Stein. And when you have a young quarterback that's starting for the first time as a full-time starter, you're going to have these sorts of mistakes. And it was really a matter of when, not if. And unfortunately, it comes on a day that Oregon is hosting College Game Day and has a top 10 team in town. And it leaves you with a sour taste in your mouth in light of Penn State's second straight loss after Oregon, and the fact that, it just doesn't feel the way it did a couple of weeks ago. It kind of has taken the air out of the balloon a little bit. I still think Oregon is perfectly fine. I just think in this game that, Dante Moore and Will Stein were not able to consistently diagnose, pick up, audible, slide protect, whatever you want to talk about. Indiana's blitz packages were just too much. It rattled Dante Moore. It sped up his internal clock. He couldn't push the ball down the field. He had open receivers. I think Dante Moore was probably worse than Will Stein in this game. I mean, even the broadcast was talking in real time about, boy, he had an open guy on the other side of the field, and he just never looked there. He wasn't making the right read. He was trying to get into a rhythm, and he just didn't. So I think you have to credit Indiana's defensive game plan. It was really good. And now Oregon's got to go to the film, figure out, hey, what did they do? What are our counters going to be? If I think that this look is coming, I've got to be able to check into this play or this protection. Those are the things that were missing from Oregon's offense, and Indiana took advantage of it.
And on the other side, Indiana offensively, and look, again, I'm showing my ignorance maybe about Indiana football. I don't know. But I looked at it going into the year. A lot of draft people excited about Fernando Mendoza. I'm like, really? I saw him play Auburn last year. Look, he helped them beat Auburn, but, he was okay. But, I mean, him be the running back, 2 touchdowns in a game, and then you have Surratt, 121 yards, a touchdown. They've got players all over. I mean, Mendoza does look the part now, as I've been watching them this year, as a guy that you can see playing at the next level. What would your big takeaway from the Indiana offense?
Yeah, I think they were certainly good enough. It wasn't some, barn burner of a performance. You look up, they put up 30 points. They also had a couple of drives that started because the Oregon offense couldn't move the ball down the field, and a couple interceptions, and you got to give Indiana credit for those. Certainly they stiffened when they needed to. I think the best thing you can say is they were really good situationally. Oregon, I think, was 3 of 13 on third down in this game. Indiana offensively, though, is good. And what people have to realize about this Hoosiers team, and I said this going into the game, I also thought Oregon would win, just to be clear. But I said the Indiana defense is really underrated because people think about the offense and how many points they were scoring last year, and Curtis Rourke was so good, and the system Cignetti runs and all that. I think all of that deserves its fair share of attention, but it was the Indiana defense that made me go, yeah, this Indiana team's really balanced. I mean, they pushed Illinois around. They scored at will. They shut them down. They were creating havoc. And I think that, Indiana offensively, I've never been a huge Mendoza to the NFL guy. I didn't change my opinion of him coming out of this game. He's big. He's not super mobile. He's got a decent arm. But, I think mostly what he does well is his processing. This is his 3rd year being a starting quarterback in college football, and he looked like a guy who was reading the defense very well, understood what Oregon was trying to do, and then exploited the weak areas. And then he's got a couple of NFL receivers in Elijah Surratt and Omar Cooper. So, yeah, I think Mendoza was fine, but, I mean, go look at his numbers in this game. He threw a pick 6. That was a third of Oregon's points in this game. Came off of a Fernando Mendoza poor decision because he kind of tried to make an NFL throw, and it was pretty well underthrown, as well covered by Oregon's true freshman corner. And, Mendoza can lead them as far as they want to go as a football team. I'm not trying to argue that, but, I didn't come away going, man, Mendoza was just incredible. Yeah. No, he's exactly what I expected him to be. He made some plays in the RPO game, and he's got enough mobility at times, and he made a couple throws to some good receivers who made plays and helped him out. It's kind of all you need.
So I wanted to jump, I had you jump into the SEC because I look at the SEC as a conference. I could argue about 5 different teams that may be the best, maybe not that many. Ole Miss, has got the record. Georgia, you got Alabama. Who knows what Texas is going to do with them? I mean, but who do you?
I don't believe in Texas.
No, well, I'm just saying, with what they are. They were the team that were supposed to be the team. Who do you see as the best team in the SEC?
Do I have to answer the? I'm being sarcastic. I guess I'll go with Alabama because I think Kalen DeBoer's got things figured out. I've always been a believer in him down there, and it looked bad for a while. Earlier this season after the Florida State loss, I think we were all justifiably talking about what was his buyout, the hot seat situation, because Florida State, I didn't think was a very good team coming into this year. Phillip, they're yet to win an ACC game. They have not won one yet. Like they are not that good. They're an improved team for sure. They are not that good of a team. And that was just a dud of a game. Since then, though, it's really hard to argue with what Alabama's done the last 3 weeks, not looking at them as the best team in the SEC, which is what I thought they would be coming into the year. Them and Georgia, I thought would be the top teams. I think they are at this point in time. I think Tennessee is good. I think Texas A&M belongs in to be the best team in the SEC. But, these games that Alabama's won the last few weeks, this is what, as a guy that covers a lot of West Coast football, this is what we saw from DeBoer at Washington. You have a quarterback that can throw for a lot of yards. You have great receivers on the perimeter, and you're really good situationally. That's what they have been. When Kalen DeBoer's got Ryan Grubb as his OC, which he does. So I'll lean Alabama and say, man, that was just a week 1 dud against Florida State. But the best resume in the SEC right now belongs to Texas A&M. In my top 25, I've got Bama 1 slot ahead of Texas A&M because of those wins. But if you wanted to punish Alabama for that loss and rank them behind and say it's Texas A&M, I wouldn't strongly push back. I have them right next to each other for a reason. So I think Texas A&M's impressive. Marcel Reed needs to be more consistent throwing the ball. But, Alabama is a team that has got plenty of talent and has just found a groove and identity. It feels like they've kind of settled down. And how many teams in the country could win at Georgia, at home against Vandy, which is not a joke of a game at all, and then on the road at Missouri?
Yeah,
I don't think there are very many. That is an incredibly difficult stretch. They're still unbeaten in SEC play. Won't be surprised if they're in Atlanta.
Yeah, same here. You talked about Georgia, and this is a team that they're good, but they get off to these slow starts against Tennessee, against Alabama, and then against Auburn. But they're also one of these teams, man, you got to put them away, because if you don't, they will come back on you. Alabama almost saw that. Tennessee did see that. Of course,
Auburn saw that.
Okay, I'm going to ask you this, because as we know, people see on the screen, I cover Auburn. I'm with the Auburn Wire. Do you think that was a touchdown or a fumble?
It's a touchdown.
Okay.
I talked about this on my Monday show, and I'll get out of here on this. The officiating in the SEC is really bad.
Yes.
In all of college football, it's a problem because they're making mistakes on simple, easy stuff. When the SEC has issued an apology to Auburn once this year, I mean, I don't know if it was addressed to Auburn, but it was a statement, and it was like, yes, by the way, this was not handled correctly. And then you can go and freeze frame Jackson Arnold possessing the ball, breaking the plane, and they didn't call it a touchdown. And then Kirby Smart just lies to the officiating crew, and they believe him like, oh, no, he said he didn't call timeout. Like, Hugh Freeze was all of us in that moment, just going, what do you mean? You're telling me that you heard a clap as an official? Here, there's no good explanation here. Either the officials heard clapping and said someone called a timeout, or what is 99% likely to have happened, Kirby Smart just wanted to save a timeout and pretended that there were no cameras on him and that he wasn't going like this or uttering the word timeout. Like, Kirby, John Boy Media is real. We can read lips, man. You're saying the word timeout. No. I didn't say it. And for the officials to just go, oh, well, if he says so.
Yeah,
it's I don't think it's a grand conspiracy against Auburn. I think they have been on the wrong end of just some egregiously bad mistakes.
Yeah, I said this. As a guy, I do high school football, and I watch NFL like everybody else. I think the SEC may have the worst officiating at any level.
Bad.
I've seen high school games officiated way better. And if anybody that knows me that does high school games as referees, I'm not taking a shot at you, but I'm just saying it's bad. So we'll see. Maybe this weekend will be better. They got some big games in the SEC this weekend. But
Auburn favored against ranked Missouri. Got to look out for those matchups.
Well, you know how that's going to go. The offense will completely fall apart.
Yeah, I mean, actual last thought. I never thought Jackson Arnold was the right move for Auburn, because in a year where Hugh Freeze has to have it, he brought in a project at quarterback. I didn't like that fit. Here we are.
Yeah, so We shall see what happens on Saturday. And Spencer, a lot of fun talking about things college football with you. If the listeners, viewers want to check it out online, where can they find you?
On YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, Locked On College Football, Locked On Ducks covering Oregon. I'm the play-by-play voice for Southern Utah as well. Primarily on ESPN+, but I do some radio work as well. You can follow me on Twitter at @SMcLaughlin, the CFB, to hear my work.
All right, everybody, go check them out. Does a great job covering all things college football. And Spencer, I appreciate the time. I hope we can do this again.
Yeah, absolutely, man. See you.
All right. Once again, thanks to Spencer for coming on the show. A lot of fun talking with him, all things college football. We went heavy into the Penn State and Oregon, Indiana stuff. But it gives thoughts there when it comes to the SEC. All right. Now let's jump into some final things here on the podcast. NFL top 10 and picking some games for the weekend. And we're going to get out of here for the week. Now this week's episode did come out later on Wednesday, almost evening time. Traditionally, normally, consistently, this show's going to come out around noon on Wednesdays. But this week, is getting the first one out. Got a little delay. Anyways, NFL top 10. Number 10, the NFL, I don't really know who is the best team. I'm going to tell you my number one, but it's hard to say. There's so many good teams, so many 4-2 teams, so many teams with one loss. So NFL top 10 real quickly. I got the Bills at number 10 at 4-2. They're coming off 2 losses. The Eagles as well. They've got 2 losses too as well at 4-2. The Eagles haven't looked great offensively. The defense has had some issues too as well. I mean, they've been winning games, but hey, that repeating thing ain't easy. Got Seattle at 4-2. I'm really surprised at how well they're playing. And then the Rams just, McVay, Stafford, that group, they're always going to be good, 4-2. The Broncos 4-2. Their defense is going to be good. Bo Nix make a play here and there. That was a win against the Eagles a few weeks. Was big. The comeback victory there. I got them at 6. The Steelers at 4-1. The Colts at 5-1. Giving Colts a little bit of edge there, but Steelers are playing with Aaron Rodgers and all. And right now, Steelers got to be the favorite to win the North with the Ravens struggles, the Bengals injuries. I mean, the Browns are the Browns. They got the Lions at 4-2. They really recovered well from that loss against the Packers. Of course, they come off a loss against the Chiefs. I know the Chiefs aren't in it. They're 3-3. They're on the outside looking in, though. I got the Buccaneers at number 2 at 5-1, and I know the hat. If you're watching on YouTube, and I'm about to get so many people get mad at me. Packers number 1. I think they've had some of the best wins so far, and I think they got stuff straightened out. We'll see. We'll see going forward. They got to play the Cardinals this week. All right, next up, let's look at the coaches, the college football picks for the weekend. Number 10, LSU at number 17, Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is a 2.5-point favorite in this one. I'm going to go with LSU to take the victory, though. Their defense, I think, will wrap up and contain Diego Pavia, and I think they'll get enough offense from Garrett Nussmeier just to try to find some running game if you're LSU. Number 14, Oklahoma at South Carolina. The over is 43.5. Not a lot of points expected here. Oklahoma is a 5.5-point favorite. I think they rebound from last week. Their defense plays really well, and Materia doesn't force 3 interceptions. Number 5, Ole Miss at number 9, Georgia. Georgia's 8.5-point favorite here. I'm going to go with the Bulldogs to take care of this one. A&M, the number 4 team in the country, at Arkansas. So I'm glad they're not doing it neutral side anymore. A&M's a 7.5-point favorite. Like I said in the open, A&M's a type of team that can win it with a low scoring, high scoring. They may have to go high scoring here. Look, Taylor Green and Arkansas can put up points. We know that, but they just can't stop anybody. A&M wins, but I think we get a high scoring game between these two. Mississippi State at Florida. Florida is an 8.5-point favorite here. There are reports coming out that this could be the end of Billy Napier at Florida. We shall see what happens. I think Florida does get the win here, but if they lose Mississippi State, that definitely is the end of Billy Napier in Gainesville. Number 21, Texas will be at Kentucky. First time ever visiting Kentucky. Texas a 12.5-point favorite. This is the biggest spread of the weekend in the SEC. Texas wins big. Tennessee at Alabama. This is a 7.5-point favorite for Alabama. Over under 58.5. I think we see a lot of points here. Tennessee's defense has not been great this year. They're getting up a lot of passing yards a team. I think Ty Simpson has a very, very big day in this one. So I'm going to go with Alabama. And then number 16, Missouri at Auburn. Missouri's a 1.5-point favorite. Auburn actually opened as the favorite in this one. There's a part of me wants to say Auburn, But until this offense shows me something, particularly in the second half, I can't do it. I think Missouri wins. It's probably going to be like a 24-16, 24, or 20-13 game. The defense, Auburn defense, will once again keep them in it, give this offense chances to win, but I don't think they'll be able to do it toward the end. So big games nationally. Number 20 USC at 5-1 will be at number 13 Notre Dame, who's 4-2. Notre Dame's 9.5-point favorite. Michigan's USC's coming off a win over Michigan, but I'm going to pick Notre Dame. Then you have Utah, big rivalry game, 5-1, number 23 in the country versus number 15 BYU, 6-0. Utah's 3.5-point favorite. I'm going to go with Utah in that one. Now looking over into the NFL, you have the Steelers at the Bengals. This is Thursday Night Football. The Steelers are a 5.5-point favorite. Give me the Steelers in this one. The Rams 4-2 at the Jaguars 4-2. This is one of the international games on Sunday morning, 8:30 Central Time. The Rams are 2.5-point favorite. Give me the Rams. The Eagles at the Vikings. Eagles are going to win this one. Eagles win this one. They get back in the winning ways. 5-1 Colts at the 4-2 Chargers. Chargers are a 1.5 favorite. Give me the Chargers in this one. Falcons at the 49ers. I'm going to say the Falcons win this one. The 49ers are just so beat up. They're just so beat up. And I like how I saw the Falcons on Monday night as they defeated the Bills. And actually, this will be an upset because the 49ers are a 2.5-point favorite. Then we have the Buccaneers and the Lions, Monday Night Football. I'm going with the home team, the Lions. This is going to be a high-scoring game. The Lions kind of got some issues with their secondary, but I am going to go with the home team, Detroit Lions, to win this one. And the Packers will roll the Cardinals, of course. Anyways, that's going to do it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the show. Be back next Wednesday for some more sports talk with passion, sports talk for sports fans. I'm your host, Phillip Jordan. Until next time, bye-bye.